Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the X First Global channel. Thank you very much for joining me today. Hope you're all having a fantastic week. Let's dive right into the latest Bitcoin developments and explore how we can readjust the wave counts from our previous analysis. As I must cater to both the bulls and bears, I hope my analysis shows a neutral approach to help build your own thesis on the bearish or bullish outcome. But nevertheless, I do share my probabilities and personal sentiment that is deemed not financial advice. So, as we have been discussing from our last analysis, our primary expectation was this idea of a possible WXY being built here. Now, does this idea still remain valid? Absolutely. We're still just working for the shorter time frame, 1, 2 being built here for this last possible impulse leg to the upside. But will these levels hold or not? That is a question that we now have to be really discussing because we are now approaching those major Fibonacci levels that we have been discussing. Now, if we take a little recap of what we have been discussing, we talked about this 1, 2 being built either as a flat or a deeper wave 1, 2, and it looks like we're getting that deeper 1, 2. Now we are reaching that 0.5 and between that 0.5 and 618 zone, possibly into the 786, because since Bitcoin does like to retrace deep into the 786 and the 886 levels, we do really want to see some kind of at least price reaction on these major Fibonacci levels. Now the 0.5 is not a major Fibonacci level, that is just a halfway mark. The major Fibonacci level starts from that 618 to the 786. Now those two levels are going to be extremely important, whether this deep 1, 2 is going to be holding or not as an ABC, or are we going to be seeing something different in terms of the alternative. So if you're interested in seeing the daily analysis more on a timely manner, please do join me on the X-Force Global Discord server. We do have that premium membership available, so please do contact me at the X-Force Global link in the description below. Please do not hesitate to contact me. Now, getting right back into this, we are expecting this wave 1, 2, as I've just said. Now, is this major Fibonacci level going to be holding? Is this retaining an okay look for this possible expanded flat? Still has that retained look. However, it's something that we must take into consideration that if we start to kind of linger on here for a possible, more larger corrective move, it might be turning into something else. So what are we trying to get out of this scenario specifically? Like I said, we wanted to ideally see this continuation from a nested perspective, that we're creating continued 1, 2s and a larger extended 3, possibly going into that 0.618, 0.7 minimum retracement. We would want to ideally see it at the 0.7, but now due to this deeper retracement for this 1, 2, we would ideally like to see it at the 0.886 rather, or the 0.9, which is the 90% level for this X wave. And then we were looking for a possible retracement for that wave Y as a triangle or as a zigzag or as a flat. Really doesn't matter, but ideally we would like to see some kind of zigzag, as that is the most common type of retracement pattern due to the fact that we do have a possible flat being made here. Now you can't have a flat, you can't have a flat zigzag or a flat triangle, either or. We just don't know which pattern is going to be until we actually get there and we actually get a 5 wave to complete this ABC, as this transitional wave is still being created. So nothing in that department in terms of the overall macro picture. We're just now starting to get into this idea that whether this 618 is going to be holding or not. Now that's something very, very important for the bulls to do. We need these levels to be supported, as we did have a nice 16% bounce to the upside. And that was enough to clearly say that we were in some kind of impulsive 5-wave move to the upside to complete some kind of wave 1. And it looks like we did complete that wave 1, and that was the expectation. We did see that resistance here. We did get a small breakout above it, but it was a fake out when we came back down. And now we're just in some kind of possible controlled pullback. But this, again, is a hybrid. Again, we have to talk about what are motive waves, what are action area waves, and this action area wave could be either turning into wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of some sort, maybe of a different alternative scenario, or this could be A, B, and we're now just working in a C wave where we're going to get eventually supported at these levels, which is what we want from this ideal perspective, since this is the highest probability scenario for the time being, as I've mentioned in my previous videos. So as expected, we were talking about what is the current mode of pattern. The mode of pattern is a 3, 3, and then a 5 is what we're looking for now. That 5 is going to be deemed as the final move for the C wave of this expanded flat. Now, we did meet a lot of the great requirements that was needed for an expanded B pocket, which was the 1382, the 1236 zone, and we hit that zone very nicely. If we were looking at this as the ABC, the A to the C ratio, extension-wise, hit very nicely and was almost on spot between the 1382 and the 1618, which is that kind of Fibonacci extension that we were looking for that A to the C. So there's this beginning structure looks very, very nice. We're just looking for that possible continuation in a very, very parabolic type of manner, just like we saw for this wave 1. So are we going to be getting that? That's for the markets to decide. But we are getting to those major Fibonacci levels that we were expecting, and that's what we're kind of expecting. So if we're going to zoom in, what is the kind of expectation that we're looking for? So if we go into the 1-hour chart or the 15-minute chart, we're looking for, again, we were seeing this as a possible finished 5-wave move to the upside into a wave 1. Now, this is definitely A or a 1. This is definitely a 2 or a B. But since we're looking for a corrective mode of pattern, we're looking for this 1-2 to be completed as an ABC. So this move here is now going to be part of that extended C wave, where we're looking for that ratio from the C to the A, just like we saw in that previous part. We were talking about how this A to the C should relatively, with the most common target, going to be that 1.618 for that wave C. If we're taking in relation to the A wave, that's the most common target for an extended wave C. So if we take kind of, break it down in terms of what we're looking for in the 5-wave mode of structure for this actionary wave, is we're now seeing the C wave coming into play in between the 618 and the 0.5. This is the most common target zone that we want to see an ideal retracement out of these, or the retracement to complete rather. And we're looking for that 618, which is the normal fib retracement between the local bottom here to the local top as wave 1 has completed, and that is matching very nicely with that 1618. So I would ideally expect some kind of move to be, or as some kind of price reaction to occur at these levels. It depends on where. Another way we can look at it is if we're seeing any kind of other evidence from the momentum indicators, possibly because with the wave C, you most likely on the shorter time frames, that is, you will be looking for some kind of divergence between waves 3 and 5 based on the body candles. Are we seeing a divergence right now? Are we seeing it? No, we're not. So this is indicating that we might see one more possible low. If we do get a small reaction here, maybe this is turning into some kind of other micro scenario that we just don't know. But based on the current data that we have, we're looking for a possible wave 5 being in play here. Is this wave 4 overlapping? No. So this is deemed valid. We're looking for a possible 1, 2, 3, 4, and then possibly final 5th of this micro degree here. And now we're looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is kind of how I would personally see it, since we are working very, very tightly within this range. This C wave looks like it's very controlled. And with every pullback to the upside, we're seeing a rejection. So it is indicating some kind of impulsive structure is being made here. So this 618 and the 168 zone is going to be very crucial for the bulls to actually hold. So I would say this is most likely the possible scenario in terms of the overall X wave that we're expecting. But again, we have to come up with different scenarios for how we can continue to the upside or continue to the downside. So this is one managed expectation that we're looking for, right? But what if, in the case that this hybrid scenario is turning into something else? Maybe this is turning into a possible ABC, and then another ABC, and then another ABC. That will put us into a more deeper zone possibly for a larger 1-2 being made. But does this fit into the larger X wave that we're looking for? It doesn't look like it's going to be fitting into that X wave. So if in the case we don't go up, but we do go up eventually, we're going to have to fit that into something else and not say that this was now being the continuation of an expanded flat. So what we can do is ideally say that there is the overall expectation of a double zigzag that has been deemed not as likely, but now is going to be the likely scenario, where it might be even more bullish if we correct a little bit longer. So if we pull up the double zigzag scenario, our expectation was that we have a completed wave 4 over here, where it terminated via this wave C to the Y. So this here would be deemed as that completed double zigzag scenario. Now, we originally didn't expect this to be a double zigzag because this X wave did hit that 90% retracement, but I do like this now in terms of what other alternatives may be available for us since this move up was quite impulsive. This was the largest impulse move that we've had, from the previous impulses. So this is telling us something, right? It's telling us that it may be some kind of story being built here. Whether it is the bullish or bearish outcome, we just don't know. But this move up was definitely something to be considering for a possible bullish continuation. So for continuing with that narrative on the idea that we're working for this 1-2, now this ABC or WXY can alternatively lead us into doesn't really matter because we're going to be expecting a wave 3, right? But that wave 3 won't be as nice of a looking for that possible X wave being in there because it's getting so tight and we're correcting longer in time. That's not something we want in terms of having a relatively good look for a structure of any type of wave, especially when you're in a transitional wave. You want them to be finished with a good look. That's the most important thing for these possible waves. Now, they're never going to have the perfect look, as this double zigzag never had a perfect look, but as more data is being created, this looks like it can become one of the more possible scenarios if this is the case. So what this is going to be doing is that whether we are now done for this 1-2, we can expect that wave 3 just like we expected for wave X, or if we're going to be expecting a deeper retracement, even as a possible double zigzag being made, as we are expecting that wave ABC, another possible ABC. What if we do get another ABC to the downside in a 3-wave fashion? This could be the new wave 3 being created, possible sideways 3, 4, and then that'll be creating a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into new all-time highs, completing a possible 5th wave that we created over here for a 3-4. So we're looking for a 5th wave here. Now that is the alternative scenario. We want to be rational as possible because that's why the X wave is a little bit higher in probability at this time of recording. Now, there are more scenarios now, ladies and gentlemen. So that was the double zigzag scenario. Now, we can have a deeper possible zigzag scenario if we're utilizing this as a possible running flat, maybe. If this move is an actionary wave and this was the corrective wave and we ended it here and we're working on some kind of deeper move to the downside, we can even say, just like I said, we had that possible 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 being made. This can turn into the C wave of a little bit of a deeper move where we can have another low being made at the 54 to the 56K levels. If the level of regional bottom does get breached, then we're going to expect a possible running flat that has completed. Now, I do like this look of it because it was done in such fast fashion, meaning that we did this ABC quite nicely, really quickly. We had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or sorry, this should be an ABC, sorry. This should be the ABC to the downside, and that would have completed the B wave, just like we had for the other scenario, for the X wave of the expanded flat. So this B wave, instead of being labeled up in these regions, it would be labeled here, and we did get a nice 5-way move to the upside for that B wave. Didn't break into the previous zone over here at the regional high, but it did breach as an expanded zone, and then we had a failure to breach the new high, and that gives us that running flat scenario. I like this idea too in terms of this coming down and going into these regions, but until those major Fibonacci levels break, we just don't know exactly where and how Bitcoin is going to be reacting. All we can do is give a managed expectation, and our managed expectation was a possible 1-2 pullback, and that is the idea that we have to be working on until invalidated. And the invalidation, of course, that 1-2 is going to be below this previous region here, and we just don't know if that's going to be holding or not. But based on probabilities, this could be turning into that possible WXY as an ABC. Now, I do like this idea, but there are a little bit of a better idea in terms of what we can expect, and that would be turning us into that bear scenario as well, which is the diagonal version of how we can expect higher levels, but that expectation for the wave 2 pullback is going to be still met with a lot of resistance with buyers exhaustion, and then we'll come back down for a larger wave 3, possibly this being the larger picture being built in as a flat scenario. But there are problems with this one as well. We just can't count a 5-wave move, or a 3-wave move rather, into this wave 4. So are we going to find some kind of ABC built up here? I did discuss a possible triangle being built here for wave B and then have a highly extended C wave, but that idea just still seems a little bit far-fetched at this time. But we do have a possibility of having a wave 4 being completed, or maybe we're going to have another short wave C where maybe we do get that reaction off that Fibonacci level, and then we come up for another 5 that does create this and still give us that overall contracting look, and we're still going to be expecting one more low before we come back up. But again, that's just something to be determined until that actually happens. So this is idea that we are working in a larger diagonal scenario that can bring us into higher levels and then bring us down. But again, we just don't know. But there is an alternative scenario that I have also mentioned here for that diagonal, which is that diagonal has already finished into that wave 1 where it overshooted into that the trend line, and then we came down here. It's a little too deep for my liking, but it's still acceptable, and we're already completed wave A as that actionary wave. So I do like this idea better in terms of us forcing some kind of corrective move before we come back down, where we come back down, retrace, and then we come back as we're already here. We're going to come back up for a larger wave C and say that diagonal completed. That still gives us the overall 1, 2, and then we get that same rejection around those levels at the 70K region, and then we go back down. So overall, we're still going to be looking for profit zone taking, right? We're still expecting, even if it's a wave 3, a wave 2 being built, these are the levels that you still want to be cautious as a bull, because we just don't know if this wave 3 is going to be playing out, because it can be a 1, 2 or an A, B being built. That's something that you have to keep in consideration as well. So those are kind of the scenarios that we're going to be looking at in terms of how we're going to see the expectation for a continuation to the upside. Again, my managed expectation is still on the idea that we're working on this possible move to the upside, where we're creating a 1, 2, a deep 1, 2, 3, and then sideways 4, 5. Again, the pros to that is that we had a very strong impulse off of the lows, and that either is completing something or is the end of something. However, it looks like it's the beginning of something, because this does look like it's a completed move, and we're just working in a transitional wave, or that double combo idea where we did complete, or double zigzag rather, and we completed that bottom already, which is this move here, and we're just working for a 1, 2. If it's going to be a double correction of some sort, we're going to look for a WXY possibility, and that would give me a little bit more confidence that this idea is going to be in play as well if the lows get protected. So that's the idea. And then again, the bearish scenario, I can't force an ABC into here no matter how hard I try. So what I did is alternatively label that diagonal has completed, and we completed that wave 1. We're still expecting higher levels, but instead we're labeling this move, since we can fit a 5-wave actionary wave into there. This is looking like an ABC, and that wave 2 is going to be rejected around the 70 to the 73K levels, and then we'll see that rejection into that larger flat idea that we're going to be looking for. But again, this whole move is going to be extremely deadly, violent, and to the downside. Everyone will be selling at that point. So liquidity is going to be very key here. How these liquidities are going to be met is something that you should be researching into yourself. I guess that is all the scenarios, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully that was helpful. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.